Here's something nobody wants to admit. Most people think they understand risk. They'll tell you about diversification, about not putting all your eggs in one basket, about balancing portfolios. But that's not understanding risk. That's just repeating what some finance blog told them. Real risk assessment, the kind that actually protects wealth across generations, that's a completely different game. And I'm about to show you how one culture has been playing it at a master level for longer than most countries have existed. My father once told me something that sounded insane at the time. He said, "The best investment I ever made was the one that scared me the most, but for the right reasons." I was 15. I had no idea what he meant. Fast forward 20 years, I've watched him turn down opportunities that made my friends rich quick and lose everything quicker. And I've watched him say yes to things that seemed boring, slow, almost pointless, that ended up funding retirements, weddings, and entire business ventures. The difference wasn't luck. It was a fundamental rewiring of how he saw danger versus opportunity. Today, I'm breaking down 3 core principles of how Jewish investors think about risk that flip conventional wisdom completely upside down. This isn't about being conservative or aggressive. It's about being intelligent in ways that most financial advisors never learned because they weren't taught at kitchen tables by people who survived actual catastrophes. Shout out your city in the comments right now. I want to see how far this perspective is traveling and whether this resonates differently depending on where you're watching from. Alright, let's start with the most counterintuitive one. Risk isn't about how much you could lose, it's about whether you can afford to be wrong. See, most investors look at an opportunity and calculate potential loss versus potential gain. $5,000 in, maybe $50,000 out. Sounds like good odds. But Jewish investors ask a completely different question. They ask, if I lose this $5,000, does my life change? Do I miss rent? Do I delay something critical? Does it create a domino effect? Because if the answer is yes, then it doesn't matter if the odds are in your favor. You've already failed by taking the bet. I know a guy, we'll call him Benjamin, who turned down investing in what became a massive tech company. Everyone thought he was crazy. The company went public. Early investors made millions. Benjamin could have been one of them. But at the time, that investment would have meant pulling money from his emergency fund. It would have meant if his daughter needed braces, or if the car broke down, he'd be scrambling. So he passed. Did he miss out on millions? Absolutely. Does he regret it? Not even a little. Because in his mind, protecting his family's immediate stability was worth more than a lottery ticket. Even a good one. That's the principle. Risk isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in life disruption. You can lose money and recover. You can't always recover from the chaos that comes when you bet wrong at the wrong time. This completely changes what you say yes to. Opportunities that look identical on paper become totally different when you ask, can I afford to be wrong about this right now? Most people skip that question. They just see upside. Jewish investors see the full picture, including the version where they're wrong and life keeps happening anyway. Now here's where it gets interesting. The second principle is about something most people misunderstand completely. Calculated risk versus stupid risk. They sound similar. They're not even close. Calculated risk means you've done the work. You've researched. You've asked people who've been there. You've stress-tested the scenario. You've imagined 5 ways it could fail, and you've got answers for 4 of them. You know you might be wrong, but you've earned the right to take the bet because you've put in the hours. Stupid risk is when you're guessing and calling it confidence. I watched my uncle turn down a restaurant investment that 3 of his friends jumped into. Beautiful location. Great concept, experienced chef, everything looked perfect. But my uncle spent 2 weeks talking to restaurant owners in the area. He reviewed foot traffic patterns. He checked lease terms. He found out the landlord had a history of doubling rent after initial contracts ended. He discovered 2 similar restaurants had failed in that same spot in 5 years. His friends didn't do any of that. They just loved the idea. They thought it couldn't miss. 18 months later, the restaurant was gone and they lost everything they put in. My uncle didn't avoid risk, he avoided ignorance. See, in Jewish culture, there's this expectation that before you risk anything significant, you've earned the credibility to make that decision. You've studied, you've consulted, you've challenged your own assumptions. You've let people smarter than you poke holes in your logic. And if you can't defend it after all that, you don't do it. That's not fear. That's respect for the risk itself. Because risk deserves respect. It's not the enemy, but it's not your friend either. It's a force. And forces require preparation. The investor who treats risk casually is the one who gets destroyed by it. The one who prepares for it, studies it, respects it. That's the one who uses it to build something real. Third principle. And this one might be the most important. Risk is never just about money. It's about relationships, reputation, and peace of mind. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen people take financial risks that were technically sound, but socially catastrophic. Borrowing from family to start a business, going into partnership with a close friend, investing retirement savings into something their spouse opposed. The math worked. The opportunity was real. But the risk wasn't just financial, it was relational. And when things went wrong, and they often do, the real cost wasn't the money. It was the destroyed friendship, the broken marriage, the family gatherings that never felt the same again. Jewish investors have this deeply ingrained understanding that money is never isolated. It's woven into everything else in your life. So before taking a risk, there's this automatic question. What else am I betting here besides money? My grandmother refused to co-sign a loan for her sister's business. People thought she was heartless, cold. How could you not help family? But she knew something they didn't. She knew that if the business failed and her sister couldn't pay, it wouldn't just be about money. It would poison every holiday, every phone call, every family event for years. She loved her sister too much to risk that. So she said no to the loan, but yes to helping in other ways. Free business advice, introductions to potential customers, moral support. The business eventually succeeded without her money, and their relationship stayed intact. That's wisdom. That's understanding that risk has layers most people never consider until it's too late. You can recover financially from a bad investment. Recovering from a destroyed relationship because of money is infinitely harder. So let me bring this together. Jewish investors win more not because they take bigger risks or better risks. They win because they've redefined what risk actually means. It's not about potential loss. It's about whether you can afford to be wrong. It's not about opportunity. It's about whether you've earned the right to take the bet through preparation. And it's not just about money. It's about everything money touches in your life. When you start evaluating risk through these three lenses, everything changes. You stop chasing. You start building. You stop gambling. You start planning. And most importantly, you stop losing in ways that actually matter. These principles aren't locked behind some cultural gate. You can adopt them right now. Start asking better questions. Do the work before the bet. Protect what matters beyond the money. That's how you win more. Not by taking more risks, but by taking smarter ones. Drop this comment right now, and I mean right now before you forget. I'm rethinking everything. Those 3 words. Because if this landed the way I hope it did, you genuinely are rethinking how you evaluate every opportunity moving forward. Write it. Let me see it. Let the algorithm see it too, so more people find this before they make expensive mistakes. Subscribe, because what's coming next goes even deeper into principles that sound simple, but change entire financial trajectories. I'm pulling back the curtain on strategies that don't get talked about in public, because they're too valuable to share casually. You'll want to be here. Hit the like button. Not because I asked nicely, but because you know someone in your life needs to hear this before they do something they'll regret. Send them this video. Protect the people you care about. And stay locked in because the next video reveals something most people spend their entire lives never learning. And once you see it, you'll wonder how you ever made decisions without it. Don't miss what's next.